Alright folks, in this video we're going to talk about how to conduct a census of a plot of trees. Now folks, this is not a sampling exercise. We are doing a census, meaning we are going to catalog every single tree. Kind of like how in the United States, every 10 years, there's what we call the decennial census. So back when I was at Middlebury College, I accompanied my collaborator, Professor David Allen, in the bio department, and we went on a trip to census a portion of the Battell Woods. Let's click on that satellite image here. All right, now I forget exactly where it was. I think it was somewhere in this portion over here. There's a part of land that Middlebury owns, and he was conducting research. So the question is, how do we conduct a census? Well, the first and most important thing to do when conducting a census is you need a unique identifier for each tree. Each tree in that plot of woods is tagged as follows. You hammer in a nail, you point it slightly downwards so that the tag hangs down. In other words, it doesn't fall into the tree, so that the tag hopefully does not get absorbed into the tree. And you always position the tags such that, the tags point north. But remember those variables we talked about a tree, that if you could know about them, it would be very, very informative? Well, the first thing we need is location. Now, while we could use some GPS device for every single tree, that would get very labor intensive. So what they do instead is researchers lay down a grid. You plant stakes that have a certain grid number and you measure the GPS coordinates exactly at those flags. Then you create a grid. You align out and sort of trace out the box that corresponds to that particular grid cell. And then for all trees in that grid cell, you're going to measure the DBH of the tree, the diameter at breast height, just like you did for Mini Project 2. There are two ways to do this. I mean, there are dendrobands if you have access to them, but they didn't have dendrobands here, so they're just going to take raw measurements. This is a device called a caliper, I believe, and this is used for trees that don't exceed a certain size. I forget what it was. I think it's supposed to be trees that are 10 centimeters in diameter or less. I'm not quite sure. In any case, for smaller trees, this is how you get the DBH. For larger trees, you use something called tape. Now, this tape is set up where the measurements aren't the circumference, but are fixed, they're reorganized by, divided or multiplied by pi, I forget what it is, such that the reading is the actual DBH. But notice how we have somebody in the back over here with a pen and a pad, because they're going to record the data as follows. First, for each tree tag, remember, we have the flags corresponding to the grid points, all right? And then we roughly mark where that tree is. That way we can, we can get the coordinates of a bunch of trees rather quickly. To do each one of these with a GPS device would take a while. And the idea is you roughly put the position like that, and then I think what they do is, this is called a quadrant map. I should say, yes, those grid cells are called quadrants, all right? After you do that, you feed this into a machine, and then you can get the exact coordinates. So that takes care of X and Y position. And then what are the other variables? Right here. We need to have that tag. We need to have that unique identifier. We need to have species, and we need to have diameter at breast height. This is an extra column code that has special values for very, very weird cases, like I think when a tree dies or other things like that. And this variable over here marks the quadrant where that is, and then you connect that to these values over here, and then you can end up with a spreadsheet with X, Y, tag number, species, diameter, and codes describing anything special.